This episode contains content that may be distressing to some listeners, including discussions around anxiety and self-harm. Please take care when listening. If you or someone you know is struggling with any of the topics discussed, please reach out to Lifeline 13 11 14. You spoke in your book about your diagnosis of borderline personality disorder.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you about that because I feel like it's not spoken about much and it's quite misunderstood.
Yes.
Can you talk to me about that and how it presents for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And in Unbreakable, I was obviously very honest with what I went through up until then and what I knew, which was anxiety, depression, and PTSD. And Unbreakable changed so much because I went into, it's actually exactly now 6 years since Unbreakable's come out.
Wow.
And it's changed so much because even going into Unbreakable, I still didn't know the things that I knew once it came out, and I started to learn about a lot of things and really still get help when it comes to my mental health, which was really important, and to know what I have and then, you know, how to deal with that, what the tools are. I think I'm a big believer in being really honest and vulnerable, whether with your friends or your family or whoever your closest people are, in then being actually able to go, okay, being really open and honest here. A lot of this weight is lifted off your shoulders. You're not carrying it alone anymore. And from there, I feel like you can really then reach out for help and see what you need to do to actually be your best self. And for me, with borderline personality disorder, it was something, again, that I didn't know. And after Unbreakable, I started to really get more professional help, which has made a massive difference. And I know sometimes it might not be for everyone, but I talk about that in Fearless, that for me, it saved my life. It was crucial. And finding out that I had BPD was actually really important as well. And I was at first shocked myself. Well, I have traits. I don't, fully have borderline personality disorder, but I've definitely got traits. And for me, it was a shock at first, but then it was also, I actually didn't know enough about it. I was like you, I was very, even I, who knows a lot about mental health, I was surprised that I actually didn't fully know what it was. That there's a lot of misconceptions about it as well. I was never maybe for about, I say in Fearless, maybe for about an hour, I was shocked and maybe even a little bit ashamed about it because I didn't know what it was about. But then I was like, okay, I will talk about this because it's not talked about a lot. And the numbers are out there that there are people going through BPD as well, just as much as, anxiety and depression and PTSD. And for me, I've always known I have some, I'm quite sensitive to other people and quite empathetic, and it really affects me to the point where I sometimes think about it all day or for a couple of days if I see really hard or someone struggling, and that's, some of the things that I kind of feel. And I think more importantly for me, it was again important to talk about because it might resonate with someone. That's what I'm about. I said with Unbreakable, I actually didn't do it for any other reason to tell my story except I thought it might help someone. I even say that at the end of Unbreakable, if it helps one person, it's for me mission accomplished. And obviously it's changed everything. It's changed my life. I say the day that Unbreakable came out was the best day of my life. And there's a reason for that because I found my voice and I was finally free. And Fearless is now that next step in the journey and going beyond the trauma. It's going from victim to survivor to thriver. It's about the persistence and the resilience it takes to continue healing. But ultimately, I want it to be a book of hope, and that you're not defined by your past and that you don't have to be defeated by your past, or mental health goes with that. And if you do have a mental health illness and if you're struggling with it, it doesn't define who you are. I really think that there's so much freedom in being honest and vulnerable and going, okay, I'm going to get help, or, I'm going to get my diagnosis, and you feel so much better. You feel free to go, oh my God, this actually now makes sense. And then you can actually get so many amazing tools that can help you, and you can be the best version of yourself and go forward and actually heal and be happier. So that's why I think it's important. There's so much shame and stigma associated with not just mental health, but a lot of those kind of things that we're not used to talking about, like child abuse and domestic violence. But a lot of people have been suffering in silence because of that. And that's what I want to do. I want to try and help and remove that shame and stigma around the really important topics, mental health being a massive one, and normalize that conversation, because people are suffering in silence, and they have for a very long time. And I know I did it for a very long time, and it almost cost me my life. And unfortunately for many, it actually did. And the numbers are horrific when it comes to suicide, not just in Australia, but in the world. So that's why it's so important to put it out there and be open about it.
So important. I'd saved this quote because I loved it so much. You said, if we can be open about our pain and experiences, maybe we have a chance to create a world with less pain, more love, support, and understanding. Ultimately, a better world. And that resonated with me so much, and I couldn't agree more. You also mentioned toxic secrecy, which is something I hadn't really heard before. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of connected, obviously, with the shame and stigma of a lot of the things that I feel like we are getting so much better at today, talking about it, even though we still, I feel like, always have a long way to go. And I feel like Grace Tame and her story and her advocacy changed the law. You've got Simone Biles and the US gymnastics team and what they've uncovered, the incredible amount of abuse over so many years. I even say, Turia Pitt, she's been incredible in her journey of not just recovery, but the way that she goes about it, and is very open and honest. And she's talked about a lot about this kind of sense of, that things are all sunshine and rainbows and perfect in life, but they're not. And I couldn't agree with that more, not just because of my own experience, but even on social media, media in general. I didn't grow up with social media, but it was a lot of, obviously, media in general, just society as well, but I think sport as well. So silence is golden, and this idea of perfection as well, and secrecy actually around those really kind of tough topics, because if you talked about it, you were considered weak. Yeah. And like we said earlier, shamed and stigmatized. And that is why I went into Unbreakable and Fearless, and to kind of shatter that myth of perfection, and also that vulnerability is a weakness. And in tennis and in society, you always kind of had to be, let's say, a certain size, whatever that means, or, this like kind of perfect picture of a perfect person or a perfect life or a perfect athlete, and it doesn't exist. Perfection's not actually attainable. And I always ask myself my question, who decides this? The media, social media, society? What is perfect? It doesn't exist. We're all different and we're all amazing. And that was for me, oh my God, this is just not okay. This is not like real. And you would say, oh, she looks great at a size 0 or a size 2 or a size 4, but if you're a size 18, you're not. And I was like, this isn't right. It's not the right values. And that for me is a really big one, because also in sport, we look at sports people and athletes. Doesn't matter if it's tennis or any other sport, as these amazing human beings, being so fit, being so amazing, out there going, dealing with pressure and expectation, but you had to almost be perfect. And we look at them almost like they're not human. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I think people forget that we are human beings and we have feelings, and we still go through a lot. And it was putting so much pressure, and it still is, on athletes by sponsors and media and social media. And if you said anything that wasn't, let's say, perfect and on the script, you were considered straight away, you were shamed and stigmatized, but you were also considered like you had a weakness, and you were giving away this edge to your opponents, but also you weren't perfect for the sponsors and the media. So I felt that through sport. I know a lot of others did, but with society as well. So I wanted to talk about vulnerability, and in fact that it takes so much strength and courage and guts to be vulnerable. It's not a weakness. I can tell you that some of the strongest people I know have done that. I've had to do it myself and wanted to do it myself. And I can tell you, it takes a lot of courage to do it because you have so much fear, whether it's because of your family or whether it's because of your friends or society or the sport that you're in. How is that going to be received? I had that with Unbreakable and writing it as well. And that's what I want to kind of shatter the myth of perfection, and that vulnerability is a weakness. I think it's really important for the younger generation as well, because if they feel like they can't open up even to their friends or family, and that you have to kind of have this picture perfect life, which actually doesn't exist. We all go through something, and just a circle of life in general is you're going to go through losses and difficult moments. It's something that happens to all of us. I think it's important to talk about that.
Thanks for listening to Tell Me More. This show wouldn't be possible without you. If you'd like to show your support, please subscribe or follow the podcast on your favourite platforms, and don't forget you can watch full episodes on YouTube and Spotify.